Welcome to the Nikki Rich Show. I'm your host, Miss Nikki Rich, and today, guys, we have another exciting show for you. I'm so pumped up today. I see everybody is tuned in already. Shout out to all the viewers. Shout out to Daniel Francis already in the house. I can't wait to you guys hear so much about our special guest. But before we get to our guest today, I want to let everybody know that I am your host, Miss Nikki Rich, and you can follow me along on social media at The Nikki Rich Show on Instagram, and you can go to thenikkirichshow.com, our official website. Well, guys, I don't want to keep our guests holding on any longer. I'm excited and honored to welcome to the Nikki Rich Show Miss Ava Kaufman. She is a survivor. She's an activist, a mother, a friend, a dancer, and so much more. I'm excited to welcome to the Nikki Rich Show Miss Ava. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. Um, I'm very excited to be here, and we do have a lot to talk about. So, thank you
Yes.
so much for having me on the show. I know Tina is going to be coming on shortly.
Yes, and we have Miss Tina. She is an author as well and a friend of Miss Ava. We're so honored to have her on, and I think she is in the house. Let's bring her on
Okay.
in. Hi,
Okay,
Miss
great.
Tina.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, you're live.
I was like, oh my
Welcome.
God, how do I get on this? Luckily, I have a 13-year-old.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We're so excited to have Miss Tina Hill. Everybody, welcome. She is the author of Shark Heart, and Shark Heart is all about Miss Ava. And I have the exclusive here. Y'all see it? Can everybody see it? Amazing. I'm so honored to have you, amazing ladies. Now, first off, let us know, how did you two become friends?
Um, Go ahead, Tina. You start.
Okay, so we met at a gym back in the mid 90s. I was a trainer there, and Ava was a client of another person, and her trainer didn't like me, and and they both, one day the two of them walked in together, and there were these two women with gorgeous black hair and these unbelievable bodies, and I thought, oh my God, there's two of them. But Ava ended up being absolutely lovely, and we became friends a couple of years later when she hired me to train her because she was going in for hip replacement surgery.
Oh man. And Ava, you have such an amazing story. And just to have a friend there to, tell it's truly a blessing.
Yeah, it was, well, it really all started with a rash for me. I mean, I was a
Mhm.
perfectly healthy businesswoman and mother. I had been a professional dancer. I had a black belt in Taekwondo. I was strong and fit until I wasn't. And what appeared to be a simple rash, I mean, for 3 months, I went to the dermatologist and was told that I had psoriasis. And it was really bad. The itching was so bad, I would like bite my fingers. And finally, after 3 months, I said, there's something really wrong. So I took myself to my internist who said, where's your blood work? The dermatologist had never done a blood test. And so she did one and she said, your muscle enzymes are highly elevated. So she sent me to a rheumatologist who then told me I had some kind of a myositis and that it could be cured with prednisone, which the dermatologist had put me on and off. So
Mhm.
I was on my way to get a muscle biopsy when I literally dropped dead in my house.
Mm.
My friend had come to pick me up to take me to the muscle biopsy, and I was rushed to Cedars, put on life support, and the only thing that would save my life would have been a new heart. They only listed me because they had never seen this disease, dermatomyositis, destroy a heart before. The disease is an autoimmune disease that starts with a rash, but really just destroys all your muscles. And prednisone is, what balances you from ending up dead like I did. So it progressed very quickly. Um, they listed me, like I said, as an experiment. And in 10 days on my actual birthday, I received a new heart. Then I was put into an induced coma for 2 months. And as I was coming out of it, I realized that I couldn't move, not even a finger. I couldn't move
Mm.
anything. And there was a light in front of me. And all I really wanted to do was move towards the light. And for any of you who don't believe in God or that there is something else there, there is.
Yes, it is.
There really is. And it was amazing. And I wanted to let go and follow the light. And then I smelt my 11-year-old daughter Jade's dirty hair. It smelled like the barn where she used to ride horses. And at that moment, I realized, oh, I can't leave her.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a deal with God and said, if you let me come back to being Jade's mom again, the way I was before, I would spend the rest of my life giving back. And so as I was coming out of the coma and opened my eyes, the first person that I saw was Tina. But Tina, as you see, has this long, beautiful
Yeah.
dark hair, and she was wearing this gorgeous, gorgeous yellow dress. And I thought she was an angel, and I thought I
Mm-hmm.
was in heaven. And since I was unable to speak or move, you know, the thoughts that went through my head were kind of crazy. But long story short, I left the hospital in 4 months in a wheelchair, newly divorced. I had been in the middle of a divorce and almost broke. And
Mm-hmm.
I had my life and I had my child and the promise that I made to God. And so after my very long recovery, I started volunteering at my transplant center and I began to learn about the inequities in the world of transplant.
Yes, and I love the way you told your story because Tina told your story because I was able to resonate with some of what you were saying in the book. Even when you said you open your eyes and you could see an angel, and you saw Tina, I was like, wow, And they had said in the book, how long have you been, out? You didn't even know how long, for a long time, weeks. And I was like, wow.
It
Yeah.
was pretty horrifying, and my entire recovery was horrifying.
Hmm.
They used to put me in a chair and crank me up, and Tina came to see me every day, twice a day. And she was my angel. She is my angel, and she'll always be my angel.
Hmm.
And I am one of the most fortunate people in the world to have a friend like that because she is always there. I mean, she runs a business. She has 3 children. At the time, she had 2 young children, and then she was
Hmm.
pregnant with a third. And she showed up and was there all the time, every day, and really helped get me through really difficult times. So, long story short, a couple of years later, she handed me this monologue. I'm going to call it a monologue. Uh, just a piece of paper with what she thought I felt like when I was coming out of the coma. And
Hmm.
that is now the prologue of the book. And I looked at her and I said, how could you have known? The only thing that I told her was that I dreamt that I was underwater and I received the heart of a shark. How did you know how I was feeling?
Hmm.
I'll let her, tell you the rest of that. And then when she told me, I just said, okay, let's write a book.
Exactly.
But Tina
And
wrote
Tina
it.
had me rolling about David as well.
About David.
Is it David, her friend?
Yes. Yeah.
You know that when I know you was calling him aloof at first.
Oh,
Oh,
yes. Because he would come into the room and he'd just be like, "Oh, hi," just it was. I was like, "I'm here again," you know.
Just like,
Um,
okay, I thought he was aloof, but then he was by Ava's side, so
yeah,
he's not what I thought he was.
yeah. No, he was wonderful. Also, David was like her like her soulmate.
Hmm.
She's got two friends, Claire and David, that they've known
Yes.
each other since the 70s, and
we
they're
danced.
like the Three Musketeers or something, and they're wonderful.
Yeah, David was my partner when I was on tour with Gloria Gaynor.
Yes.
in the
I
70s.
think I think that so you had a village, of people. Some people don't have that when they're going through, and I think that's amazing. And being able to tell your story, it it's hard, when you're going through and you don't know what's going on and a coma and everything else, but look at you now. You're here today. You're able to tell us, so it can help somebody else. Not only that, you have volunteered, even just volunteering, it's not easy, being able to volunteer and help others. When that happened, you began to just pour into other people, and I love that as well.
Well, what happened when I started volunteering was I volunteered in the heart clinic where people would come to be evaluated for transplants, and I saw people get turned away from getting
Mhm.
a transplant because they couldn't afford post-transplant housing near their transplant center. Cedars and UCLA do about 35% of all the transplants in the United States. 35% of all the transplants are done in Los Angeles. Keck does some, but most of them are done at UCLA and Cedars. And when people from all over the country are sent home to die, or their
Mm.
transplant centers don't do complicated transplants, they're sent here. And unless you have money to be here, sometimes pre and always post transplant, you can't get listed. And
Mm-mm.
so that's what we do. Presently, we have two homes and we can house 5 families at a time. And each pair gets their own bedroom and bathroom, and the rest of the house is shared communally. And the most amazing friendships have come out of this because everyone there is on the same journey, both
Yes.
the patient and the caretaker. And it really does take a community of people to make sure that the transplant is successful.
Now, how can others get involved?
With Ava's Heart, right now,
Hmm.
we are struggling so hard to try to even keep the doors open because so much of our funding has been cut this year
Hmm.
because of the economy and because there isn't that much money for transplants. So you can go to avasheart.org, avasheart.org, and you can join our, it's just one campaign. It's just $1 a month. I mean, you can donate more, of course, but $1 a month, that's $12 a year. And imagine if 1 million people do that.
Yes. Well, Daniel says, I'm going through a heart transplant, and Ava is my guardian angel.
Oh, thank you,
Now,
Dan.
what
I
advice
have,
would
there are a
you
lot of
give?
people waiting in,
I was just gonna say, what advice would you
what?
give any? What advice would you give any people out there that's going through right now that needs a transplant?
Well, it depends what stage you're at. If you're in the hospital waiting, I'd say the best thing to do is to take one day at a time. Wake up in the morning and smile and make a list of all the things that you're grateful for. It's difficult. The waiting, I didn't have to wait. I didn't even know that I received a heart until I was woken up uh,
Mm,
after my
2 months
surgery.
of coma.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
told that I had a heart transplant and then I was put in a coma. But from, working with so many people over the years, the waiting is the hardest part because you don't know when it's going to happen. You don't know how long you're going to have to be here for. And so you just really have to learn, you know, patience. You have
mm,
to take, fear and turn it into patience. And you know find that inner strength inside of you and know how much you really want to live. And when you're waiting for a life-saving transplant, you really realize how precious the gift of life is. So for anybody out there that isn't an organ donor, you can sign up to be an organ donor at the DMV, at donatelife.org, or on our website as well. So being an organ donor is the most incredible gift that someone can give. And what we do at Ava's Heart for the donor families who can't even afford cremation, we help with small, and I mean really small, grants for cremation or burial, just so that they know somebody cares, because the organ procurement agencies who procure the organs and who do have the money are not allowed by law to give financial assistance to donor families because it's considered paying for organs. So, the thing about transplant is, unless you know someone that's going through it, you don't really know that much about it.
Hmm.
But,
It's not easy.
well,
I know I'm going through it. It's really hard. It's so many things you have to balance out. And I know you know that from even, being healthy. You have to be healthy to even get a transplant. That's what people don't realize. You kind of be got to be somewhat healthy. They can't just say, "Oh, here go a kidney." I know with me, I have to be. I can't. You got to be able to get up and walk. You got to be able to have, certain things. Eat healthy. You can't be all, just eating anything. And I know during your time, I know you went from 100 pounds to like 180 or 200. I
yeah.
mean,
But
how
no,
did you?
that was after. I mean, I was basically really healthy, and
Okay.
then this disease destroyed my
Yes.
muscles. So
Hmm.
I blew up to 200 pounds.
Like
But
in a short time though, like
Hmm.
in a month. It
That's
was really crazy.
It is, and that's when that's like me. I know everybody probably thought, oh, she was big, a lot. It's like you said, it's a short time. You will blow up like that, but then when you realize what's wrong, what's going on, and you find a problem, you can tackle it. And I dropped that weight. I dropped like 100 pounds.
yeah,
Wow.
well,
Yeah.
kidneys are the most desired organ. I mean, there
Hmm.
are just so. I mean, there are over 110,000 people in the United States waiting for organs, and more than half of those people are waiting for kidneys.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And so we also when Ava asked me to write the book, what she wanted was to not really write her story as much
Hmm.
as show other people in the world, really, not even just who needed transplants, but to put the stories of the community of the organ transplant community out there, which included the doctors, nurses, the
Hmm.
donor families, the organ transplant recipients, some of her closest friends, because your personal support system is so important when you're going through this. And, one of the men who we interviewed for the book, he's the one who said, it takes a village to raise a child and it takes a community to heal a person.
Yeah.
And, he's such a brilliant man. And he said, when you're sick like that, you're completely alone.
Hmm.
And we felt that because Ava has really cultivated this community of people through her foundation by getting people what they need just to get listed. Those were important stories to tell. And even though when you're reading the book, a lot of it is very sad, it's a very hopeful book.
Hmm.
And Ava didn't want to make it a story about her, but I felt like we needed to weave her story into it so people
Yes.
would understand where she's coming from.
Hmm.
'Cause she's not just somebody who's like, oh, I think I'm going to go do this. She has this really strong base in the transplant community, and obviously, because of what she went through, because that's not normal to
No.
get a heart transplant under those circumstances, or to have actually died and be on life support and in a coma
Yes.
for 2 months and wake up without any functions left in your body and have to start all over. That's not
Mm.
normal. So we wanted to weave her story in so people would understand, where her perspective was coming from in order to be able to create this community, because the community, obviously, there parts of it were there before, but they weren't connected. And that's what
Well,
she is. She's the thread that connects everybody.
yeah,
Thank you,
I
Tina.
love it.
And the thing about Tina is that she's a poet as well. And so,
Mhm.
since you've read the book, there are poems in the book that tie things together, and it's just a beautiful piece of art. When we first self-published the book, that's the book that you have with
Hmm.
that cover. And that was a journey unto itself. However, Tina, in all her glory, um, gave the book to someone who gave it to someone who read it and who wanted to publish it. So, as of 2 days ago, Tina?
Yes, it went live again 2 days ago. It was supposed to be a week ago, but there was a few
Yeah.
issues. So
Yeah,
it went
so,
live 2 days ago.
so now we have a
Yeah.
new cover
Yeah.
and we have a real publisher who, wants to take the book and turn it into
Yeah.
whatever. We'll see. But we're also working on a podcast called Shark Heart.
I
Kind of
love that. Yes. And I love it because I got a chance to, even watch some of the interviews. I recommend anybody go to the website, Ava's Heart, website, and watch some of the, personal interviews with the different people that you can go and check out too. I got a chance. I was like, wow, I was just so blown away, even from the young ones, that you was able to interview as well.
Oh, right, those little kids. Well, we have had so far two babies staying
Hmm.
at Ava's house. Um,
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, if you go to the website, Laura Mendez did a story on
Laura
KTTV.
Diaz.
Laura Diaz,
Hmm.
sorry,
Yeah.
Mendez. I mean Nicole Mendez. I'm losing too many people.
I know.
Um, did a fabulous piece called Ava's House of Miracles, where she shares the
Hmm.
story of these parents who had to come from Las Vegas because their baby needed a heart transplant right
Wow.
as she was born. She was flown out here and they had nowhere to stay. And they ended up staying at Ava's house, and we kind of followed that journey. And her name is Amelia. And now she must be, I don't know, 6 or 7 months old, and she's home and healthy and doing well. And, it's just a miracle. I mean, transplantation is a miracle.
It is. It is.
It
And
transforms your life.
yes, I know some of the people, I just want to name some of the people you've interviewed: Chuck Estrada, Sarah Hinman, Jessica,
Little
all
Jessica.
these amazing people, Carol Riviera, all of these amazing interviews. Which they call, they are the stories from the heart. You can go and watch them, guys. You got to go watch them. It's just amazing stories.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. And,
Jessica Jessica was the first person that we helped with post-transplant housing when she was 9, and
mhm.
she's going to college in September.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yes, go,
And she's in the
Jessica.
book too. Yeah. We interviewed her also for the book.
Yeah,
She was
Yes.
she's
great.
in the book.
Now, how can someone become a partner or, even a sponsor?
Well, they can call me or email me
Mhm.
at ava@avasheart.org. We're having an event coming up on August 24th. We're doing a co-event with One Legacy. One Legacy is the organ procurement agency in our area, the
Mhm.
largest organ procurement agency in the United States. And I'm a community partner with them. I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do without One Legacy. And they do the Inspire Awards, and they give awards to Hollywood for getting the stories right, because there are so many medical dramas, and years ago they would get the stories wrong and it would turn people off to donation. And now, because of Donate Life Hollywood and One Legacy and Tanaya Wallace, they are getting the stories right and making people want to sign up to be an organ donor instead of scaring them away. So I speak to donor families so often, almost every day, because they request assistance with cremation. And most people, I'd say 99.9% of the people that I talk to, find that there's peace in passing life on to someone else. And in the book, we have a chapter about a donor and a chapter about a transplant recipient who we assisted. And it ended up that Sean from Hawaii ended up getting Zach's heart. And before Sean went home to Hawaii, he met Zach's parents. And we had helped Zach's parents with cremation. And Sean was able to listen to Zach's heartbeat. In
Wow.
Sean's mom, Zach's
Yeah,
mom
that
was
was
able to listen to his
Zach's
heartbeat.
mom. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just amazing, she said, to hear her son's heartbeat inside of someone else and knowing that his death passed life on to them. So it's 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 magical.
It
It's
is.
sad, it's sad when someone passes away, and it's really sad when it's a young child,
Mm-hmm.
but it's sad no matter who it is.
Yeah.
And most people find so much peace in knowing that their loved one is leaving a legacy.
A legacy. Yeah. And that's really what we tried to highlight with the donors in the book. We talked to them, about legacy. We talked to them about which, and the most interesting part interviewing the donor families, I thought, when you talk to them about how they know their loved one is still with them afterward, it would go from this incredibly sad story that I had a difficult time not crying through most of my interviews, but
Mm-hmm.
they they would light up when you'd say, how do you know that they're still with you? And they would light
Yeah.
up and they'd say, well, here's what happened. And there
Mm-hmm.
are all these really beautiful stories. One of them's, it's in the book. We also talk about it in our podcast. Was a young man who passed away at the age of 21, and he became an organ donor. And when I asked his sister, she cried through so much of this interview. It was heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
And when I asked her how she knows he's still around, she just lit up. And she said, yeah, the strangest thing happened. She said shortly before he died, and their parents, they were very Catholic. And she
Mm-hmm.
said shortly before he died, he asked their mother if she believes in reincarnation. And the mother said, what are you talking about? No, 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 no. And he said, well, I do. And when I come back, I want to come back as a bird. And his sister told us that after he passed away, they found this giant bright green feather in the middle of their living room floor.
Wow.
And then would find feathers everywhere. His dad at the factory where he worked, and so they started collecting them and putting them in a jar for him, so.
And wait, and
Mm.
then when Tina finished writing the chapter, she was at my house.
Yeah.
And when she left, she found a feather on her car.
Two, just sitting there.
And this isn't a neighborhood, it's like
Oh
Beverly
my
Hills.
goodness.
There aren't
I mean, you see feathers everywhere, but I don't usually come out and find two of them just sitting on my car, to be honest. And
No.
I look at stuff like that all the time, so it was, it was right after we finished his chapter and we were talking about it, the feathers, because I finished his chapter saying, an angel needs his wings, and that's why his parents are collecting all these feathers. And then I go out to my car and there's more feathers sitting there.
Mm. Wow.
So it was wonderful.
Amazing.
So just getting back to the sponsorship thing, we do have many different kinds of sponsorships available. You can sponsor a family for 3 months and get a plaque in the room. You can become a sponsor at our event. All of this will be up on our website this week. You can buy a ticket to the event, or you can donate $1, but we really need assistance because I turn too many people away. And just this past year, I know that there were 2 families that they just ended up going home to die because there was no way that they could afford to be here. Presently, there's a young girl, her name's Diana Perez, and I know she'll let me say her name, who is staying, well, right now she's back in the hospital, but she's staying at Ava's house. And her social worker had called me months and months ago and said, I know that, basically it's 3 months of post-transplant housing, a little bit of 3, and I kind of try to make it work for everybody. And she said, Diana's father called me in tears that his daughter was going to die because he did not have enough money to send her to Los Angeles and pay for housing there before and after her transplant, because she was from the state of Washington. Like if you're from Las Vegas and you don't need to be in the hospital, you can drive in and
Mm-hmm.
get here on time. And so we decided to make an exception. I've made many, many exceptions for people from really, outside of California. And she came here like 5 months ago. She went right into the hospital, and her husband stayed here. She ended up getting her transplant about 6 weeks ago. She needed a heart and a liver. And then she came
Mm.
back, and now she's back in the hospital. And that's why you need to be near your transplant center, because things happen after transplant. And unless you're near your transplant center, you can die. So it's like she said to me, after her social worker had told her that we said yes, she called me and she said, "Ava, I just want to make sure that Eileen, that's her social worker, my favorite social worker at UCLA, Eileen Escudero." Um, she said, "Are you sure that I can come and stay there for as long as I have to?" And I said, "Yes." She burst out in tears and said, "You're literally saving my life." And that's what we do.
Yeah.
Post-transplant housing is life-saving, and nobody knows about it.
And Ava, you are an angel. You are an angel.
But
I know
here's
Miss
my
Tina
angel.
is one, but you are an angel as well. You have, like she said, you're saving so many people's lives. It's not easy. I know.
No,
I Every day I'm up here not only doing what I love, but I journal. I write things down like just to get through. Not easy.
right. Well, I want you to contact me after the show so we can talk about
Yes.
you, because I have some people, because I'm in that world. Unless you're in the
Hmm.
world of it, you don't really know everything that's available to you. And so I would like to help you
Yes,
on your
ma'am.
kidney transplant journey.
Now, can we expect part two of Shark Heart? Because we gotta get to
Ask Tina.
we. I think it would be so awesome. You got the before. Let's see what's going on now.
Well,
Well,
I think that you can really, I mean, obviously these are individual interviews and individual stories. You could chronicle this all day. I mean, I when we were working on the book, I would sit at Ava's dining room table with her, and there would just be calls rolling in and rolling in and rolling in,
Mm-hmm.
and I would hear a lot of these calls of people saying, I mean, they're horrible calls to hear.
Mm.
I honestly don't know how she gets through every single day like that, because it's not one or two calls a day, it's many calls a day, and so many people do have to be turned away because there isn't funding for them, and they tell you these horrific personal stories, and
Yes.
she very often has to sit there and say, "I'm so sorry I don't have room," or "I'm so sorry I can't help right now." But the people who are lucky enough to be in that community to be able to get the help they want, not only could those stories go on, I mean, endlessly, really, but the stories of the people who get turned away are significant stories because that really
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be happening.
no.
You
I
know,
mean, especially in Los Angeles, there is
yeah,
so much money in this town. We
yeah.
know that there's so much money in this town. I get no support from Cedars. I get some
Mm-hmm.
support from UCLA, I have to say, not enough, but they do support what I do. Um,
But we did a little math,
we,
remember?
yeah,
We did a
Tina,
little math. Um, and it was actually on the advice of a doctor we spoke to, of a cardiologist we spoke to. And he said, "How much money have the people that you have housed and sent in for transplants, how much money have those people, just those, made for the hospital since you opened your doors?" And we figured it out, and it was over $832 million
Wow.
that she has single-handedly gotten these people listed. They've got their transplants, and then the hospitals make money off the transplants, obviously, because it's billed through medical insurance.
Mm-hmm.
$832 million, and she gets percentages of pennies on that from only one of the hospitals as well, that
Mm.
she sends people to. And it doesn't seem right. It does seem that either medical insurance companies should step in and provide this housing for everybody, because Ava
Yes.
always says, anybody can get a transplant, but not everybody can get on the list. And you think
Mm-mm.
that you just have to be healthy to be on the list, or you have to be at this level of illness to be on the list. And that's not the truth. The truth is you also have to have this post-transplant housing. And if you work part-time in Mississippi and they don't have a transplant center there, and your child needs a complicated heart and kidney transplant, and you have to come to Los Angeles and you make $8.50 an hour, how are you going to give up your life there and have a life in Los Angeles and afford that housing so your child can be listed?
But it's even it's low income families that are affected
Yes.
the most. But it's also regular, teachers and
Mhm.
nurses. I mean, people that just regular middle class, if there is a middle class working people, can't afford a second home in Los Angeles. I mean,
Mhm.
it's ridiculously expensive here, and especially because you don't know how long you're going to have to be away. So, if it's a husband or a wife, then the husband or the wife comes with that person. So nobody's working and bringing in money. You need to have someone take care of your children or your animals or your home, or it's so complicated because you don't know how long you're going to have to wait.
And then how does that factor into your ability to even recover when you have that massive burden on your shoulders where there's nobody earning money back home? Are you going to lose your house because you
Yes.
want to keep your life? It that's a ridiculous exchange, especially for Americans who have to pay for their insurance. It makes no
Yes, sir.
sense.
And then, I mean, we've had people whose family members were, and they still do, sleeping in their cars in the parking garages.
Mhm.
Sleeping
For
in their cars
months.
in the parking garages because they can't afford a hotel
Yeah.
to be near their loved one. So I was a CNN hero in 2021, and that piece is on the website. And there's one guy, Ray, who comes in and I bring him into the room, and he looks at it, and his wife is still in the hospital. She had a lung transplant, and he goes, "Wow, it sure is going to be nice to have air conditioning and a bed."
Mm.
He was sleeping in his car for 6 months.
Wow, man, this
And
is so.
if the whole idea of giving somebody this transformative medical miracle is
Mhm.
for it to be successful, how does patient care, like true care, not factor into that?
Mm. I also wanted to let everybody know, Ava, you're also a TEDx speaker. You spoke on I've learned since my heart transplant. So tell us a little bit about that too.
Oh, my TEDx talk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Tina was the one who inspired me to do a talk.
Mm-hmm.
She said, "You got to get out there and start talking about this." So I started taking all these different courses, um, and I took this one course on how to, write a TEDx talk. And I took the Bill Grove Speech Week workshop, and I applied and I applied and I got accepted. I spoke in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I talked about the inequities in the world of transplant, really, and a lot about what we were talking about here today. And my TEDx talk is also on the website. Everything is readily available at
Yes.
avasheart.org. And the book is available on Amazon, and it's Shark Heart by K.B. Hill with Ava Kaufman.
Yes, with a
It
new
won't be
cover.
that cover, it'll be the new cover.
Yes. It'll be a new cover, but I got
Yeah.
this one. And
Yes.
it's signed.
Yes.
Yay. I'm so excited. I'm so honored to have you ladies on today. We want everybody to definitely, network, connect with you. Check out, your website. Everybody can learn so much more, about Ava's heart, about Shark Heart, you know, and you can learn and get to see the new book, everything new. It's always a rebirth going on, isn't it? So I'm excited about that. It's like a rebirth of Shark Heart, you know? So,
Exactly.
Oh, I had something really funny. Tina and I did an interview on ABC when was it, last week or the week before? I don't even
Yeah.
remember. And someone who was watching the show had reached out to me, and
Yeah.
he sent me an email, and he goes, and he's waiting for a kidney, and he goes, "I need a shark kidney. Help me." So
A shark heart, shark
a
kidney.
shark,
Oh,
yeah,
that would be.
Short kidney.
he said, "I need a shark kidney. You have a shark heart. I need a shark kidney."
But I think also one of the really important things about that particular gentleman was when his wife also reached out to you,
Mhm.
and she shared with Ava that her husband had been having a really hard time, because I think sometimes when you're waiting for the organ,
Oh,
it's that's probably the worst time, right? It's a horrible time because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get one, and he was becoming much less hopeful. Um, and getting depressed and that kind of thing, and his wife said that once she saw the piece and he listened to Ava talk and what she'd been through and about the community that's out there, it gave him renewed hope, and that's why he reached out to her, because he felt hopeful again that he's
mhm.
not alone. There is a community. You don't know about it, and
Right.
that's why the book is important, is because it really it links you to all parts of the community. The doctors that we interviewed for the book are these phenomenal human beings.
Yes.
Phenomenal. I mean, where they come from and what they do and what they believe. I'd finish those interviews and I'd think, well, I guess I'll go make dinner now.
Hmm.
this this person has been all over the world and they've accomplished great things, and they're there for this community. It's what they do, it's their passion, they're there for you. It's not They're not part of a sterile community that wants you in and out. They're these incredibly intelligent, loving, giving, supportive people that are part of this community, and I think that that's where we want to really push people to show them
Hmm.
that there's hope and that they're going to be okay, because we have this ability medically to do this, which in itself is amazing when you think about it, that you're taking an organ from one human being who's gone, you're reviving the life, transforming the life of the recipient, and giving
Mm.
legacy to the donor. And that's what we can do in today's medicine. There's so much beauty in that, and making people understand that there's a community out there to support them is really what's important for people, I think.
And just to know that there's somebody that's right there by their side, because like I said, some people, you feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're alone, but when you have communities like Ava's Heart and other groups, you have people. You be like, oh, I have a support system. I have a family. I have somebody there,
Yeah.
that's helping me.
And they're not always your current friends, because a lot of times I think and this happened with Ava, a lot of times your current friends, because it feels like such a difficult time, people back away because they get to a
They
point, I
do.
think, where they don't know what to say anymore, and they don't know how to be supportive, and it's easier for them to be like, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm just so busy. But there is this other community out there that will love you and understand you and support you and do know what you're going through. And
It's
they're
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Well, Tom Moan, who was the CEO of One Legacy, now he's moved aside and is doing other things and is in charge of the foundation. He's an amazing man, and he's in the book. And he said to me once, he said, the world of organ donation and transplant is is not it's not a community or a club that anybody would want to join. I mean, nobody wants to have to get a transplant, and nobody wants to lose someone and they become a donor. But when
Hmm.
you do become a part of this community, you end up meeting the most amazing people you will ever to meet.
You
And I
do.
have to say that since my transplant, I have met the most amazing people that I have ever met in my life. Truly, they're heroes, unsung heroes, people that just give. One Legacy has a huge ambassador program. donor families and transplant families that donate their time. Yesterday was the Donate Life Run Walk. Thousands and thousands of transplant and donor families walking for, in honor of their donors. A really beautiful thing.
Yeah. And when you really think about it, obviously we want people to buy our book. But the other part about that is, what are we asking people to do? We're asking you to check a box. If yes, we would love you to buy the book. We would love you to donate to Ava's Heart. But at the end of the day, if everybody altruistically, in the words of Tom Moan, altruistic organ donors, if everybody just checked the box, we're not asking you to recycle. We're not asking you to wash things before you put them in the recycle bin. We're not asking that. Check the box. And once you pass away, you will live on if you're viable, right? So that's really, the movement that we're asking for through Shark Heart is to get everybody in the world on that bus. It's not a hard one to get on. I think we can all agree that as human beings, we should love each other and give things back to each other. This is the easiest thing you could ever do. Check a box, put the dot on your license plate, or on your license, rather, your driver's license, whatever it is for your state or your province, that's what you need to do. It's not that hard.
Because there are millions of donors, millions, but only 2% of those organs are usable.
And that's all organs. I think heart is actually only 1% of hearts are viable. And so it's so important to actually just have a greater volume of people who are signed up.
Yes. We got to get more people signed up. Please donate.
You can donate your eyes and your tissue. I mean, you can be any age. It doesn't really matter.
Yep.
Now, Miss Tina and Ava, what has been the most rewarding, in writing Shark Heart and also, being a part of, and creating Ava's Heart? What has been the most rewarding?
Well, Ava, for you, only you can answer for Ava's Heart. I can talk about the book, but
yeah, the most rewarding is helping a family. I mean, when I can tell someone, yes, we're going to make it work for you. Don't worry, because they call me before they finish their evaluation, because part of your evaluation for transplant is, do you have post-transplant housing? So when I can say yes to someone, it's like
takes a burden off of them, huge burden.
It's the most amazing feeling. And I go, wow, all this, because I work so hard. I don't know how to fundraise. I mean, I went to college. I was a dance major. I spent most of my life dancing. I ran a business with my husband, but I'm a dancer. And so I have passion and I have a huge heart and I'm in great shape and I keep myself in great shape and healthy, but asking people for money is really hard. And I know there's a way to do it. And I'm proud of what I've accomplished so far, but we really need some big time sponsors to help us get to the next step. We are presently working with Thermo Fisher, one Lambada, who's a transplant diagnostic company, who wants to help us partner with Habitat for Humanity and build Ava's houses first here in LA, then up north, then down south, and in every state that needs post-transplant housing. And there are, Arizona needs, Florida needs, Texas needs. And so we need to get people on board with that. I don't know enough about it yet. We're just getting started. We need big sponsors for that. But Thermo Fisher is a huge company, and I already have 2 multi-gazillionaires that want to get involved. And so we'd like to make Ava's Heart a national company. I get contacted from people all over the United States. Some people just need money to get back and forth to the hospital for their, for their
Uber,
for their appointments. We just don't have enough money to help everybody.
Yeah. And I think it's really hard for people to understand, You know, if you're in a position where you're financially just a little kind of okay, if you can take Ubers around, and it's hard for people to understand that there's people that actually don't have that, you know, and need that 25 or $30 each way, or that need help picking up their loved one's body after they've donated and being able to afford to have them cremated after they've given all this life to other people. You know, there's a lot of people who cannot do that. And I think it's hard to really grasp that if you've never been in that situation, you
Very
know,
true.
and that's why what she does is so important. Almost nobody does anything to help donor families. That's very, very rare, right, Ava?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the organ financially, I mean,
Yeah.
like One Legacy does so much for the donor families. You know, they have to run walk and they honor them and they have grief counseling and things like that. But they're not allowed to financially help
Right.
donor families.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, when it comes down to it, when you
The
need
laws
to
change.
cremate,
Know, I don't know, but I believe we need a national foundation. There are
yes.
so many small nonprofits trying to do good, and I think that we need some heavy hitters really involved and
Mhm.
to take it to the next step.
Mhm. Yes. Well, I'm so, like I said, honored to have you on today. We welcome you back anytime, any updates. I know you have an event coming up, so we welcome you back to, talk about that as well, or just, get ready for it. Anybody out there that would like to support, donate, they can go to the website. Once again, can you give us all the places they can go and learn more about your organization?
Just go to avasheart.org, AVASHEART.org. Everything is there on the homepage.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Miss
If you
Ava and Miss
email
Tina. Thank
if you
you.
email me, I will get back to you right away, I
Yeah.
promise.
Thank you
Yes,
so much,
email.
Nikki.
Thank you for having
And
us.
yes, and be on the lookout for the rebirth of Shark Heart, y'all. We're gonna be pumping it out, letting everybody know. New cover, so check it out. Thank you so much to everybody that has tuned in to the Nikki Rich Show today. Much love to everybody, and thank you for watching the Nikki Rich Show. Make sure you check us out, thenikkirichshow.com. Thank you guys for
Thank
watching.
you.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Really, thank you.
Thank you, guys.